If you really do what you want to do, you never work a day in your life, for one, and two, it all falls into place gradually. The work ethic is there, the passion, importantly, the passion is there, the interest is there. Then your creativity, your aptitude for learning, your willingness to learn, your willingness to improve, it comes without any effort. That's the beauty of it. If you follow your passion and you follow what you really want to do, the beginning it might be difficult to really see the light in the tunnel, but as you know, if you plow through it a little bit and you just work a bit harder and so on, and then it all falls into place in a very natural way. Nothing is forced.
Hello people out there, and welcome to Seek Your Purpose podcast. I'm your host Mayank Sehra. Before we proceed ahead, if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button so you never ever miss an episode the time we upload it. Today in this episode, I have been joined on board by an amazing personality who is going to represent India in equestrian sport in the upcoming Tokyo Olympics. Fouaad Mirza. A 28 years old Indian equestrian from Bangalore who won silver medals in both individual and team eventing in Jakarta Asian Games 2018. He became the first Indian since 1982 to win a medal at an individual event there, ending India's 36 years old drought. Later, in 2019, he was felicitated with Arjuna Award for showing his valor and contributing to India's sports field. Fouaad, who had a rich cultural family history with horses, developed an early interest in this sport right from the age of 6. So like every student during his 20s, he also had a tough time while making a choice between a full-fledged secured corporate life or giving a chance to his dire passion and immense love calling for this sport. And we can say that he made an excellent choice. So during this conversation, we touched upon many aspects of Fouaad's life, right from his ancestral history to his childhood, early life, studies, and of course the undying love for his horses and equestrian sport. He laid the importance of both physical and mental fitness in his career, and especially at this time when his biggest life event, the Olympics, are just 90 days apart. He also guided us a roadmap for young students who are seeking out to build a career in this classy sport, and also touched upon some amazing suggestions for the upliftment of this sport in our country. Let's just straight away to the brilliant yet honest conversation with Fouaad Mirza. Hello, my special guest, and welcome to my show. So instead of me telling people about you, why don't we hear it from the horse's mouth itself?
Hi everyone, I'm Fouaad Mirza, and I'm an equestrian athlete representing India, and that's my short and brief introduction.
That was so honest and so straightforward of you, Fouaad. Now let's jump straight to my first question for you. I heard that you have a very rich cultural family history as far as horses are considered. It's somewhere dated way back 200 years ago, I guess. So what was that? Can you brief us a bit about your family history and your ancestral touch with these?
Yes, that is absolutely right when you say that. And so my my forefathers before me, they were horse dealers, and they moved to India from Iran, and they brought Arab horses to sell here in India. And this is many, many years ago, and also during the British Raj time and so on. So it's a long-standing history with the animal, and I'm sure if I wanted to, or if I didn't want to, I'd obviously end up doing something with horses. So that's a bit my story. So I can't get it out of my system even if I wanted to.
Yep, that was a very fortunate event that actually led to the rise of Fouaad Mirza.
Yes.
How was your early childhood like? Your parents, your family, your college, your studies?
I grew up in Bangalore. My father is a veterinarian who specializes in the treatment of horses, and my mother runs a chain of nursery schools called the First Steps Nursery School. So my childhood obviously was very much involved with horses and riding and farm animals and so on, because my father was running a stud farm at that time, and they were breeding horses for racing. So I grew up around animals and falling in love with, ducks, geese, dogs, you name it. I studied, went to school in Bangalore right up until 12th standard. So yeah, pretty much lived all my young days in Bangalore.
What about your higher education and all?
So my higher education, I went after school. I took a year off, and then I was focusing on my writing at that point. But after that, I applied to university in the UK, and I went to the University of Northampton in England. Finished 2 years, and then I had an opportunity to represent India at the Asian Games in 2014. So I then ended up dropping out of university, only finishing with a diploma. Decided to pursue my dreams of being an equestrian.
Wow, you went to the University of England and you had a degree in business and psychology, right?
That's correct. I studied psychology and business management.
So from there you decided to pursue a career in this sports only. So what were the series of incidents or happenings that led you to follow this as your passion and build a career around itself now?
Like I said before, it was something that's in my blood, and it was very difficult for me to, let's say, forget about horses. I must say, when I was at university, I was always thinking about riding and horses and the times I had in India and how nice they were and so on. I must say it was something that never got out of my system. And then I got this opportunity to ride for the embassy group, the embassy banner, to represent India at the Asian Games. At that point, I'd already finished 2 years of university, which I must say I was quite a good student. I wasn't struggling at university, let's say, and plus I had, done the 2 years of hard work and so on. So I was really in a dilemma of what I should do, whether I should, yes, finish school, finish everything, then I have a degree and so on and so forth, or do I pass up on this amazing opportunity that I've always dreamed about and I've always wanted to do? It didn't take very long to make the right decision, but I think I have made the right decision in the end. And here we are. I'm chasing my dreams, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do so.
Yes, you have made a good choice and no doubt in it. That's actually the time when adults at the age of 18 or 20, they had a dilemma either to opt for a specific well-defined career path like medical or engineering or to simply channelize their passion, do what they love doing, or simply seek their purpose, right?
I agree with you, and I think it's quite a difficult decision to make ultimately, because especially in for this sport in India especially, it's difficult to make a career out of it or and so on. At least it was then, and it is still now. It is possible, of course, but to really make a suitable, comfortable, let's say, living out of a sport like this, especially equestrian sport. I don't speak for racing or something like that. It's difficult. So for me, at that point, I was thinking, yes, there is a possibility to study, and then I can have a steady job and so on, or do I do this and take a punt? But in the end, I must say, if you really do what you want to do, you never work a day in your life, for one, and two, it all falls into place gradually. The work ethic is there, the passion, importantly, the passion is there, the interest is there. Then your creativity, your aptitude for learning, your willingness to learn, your willingness to improve, it comes without any effort. That's the beauty of it. If you follow your passion and you follow what you really want to do, at the beginning it might be difficult to really see the light in the tunnel. But as if you plow through it a little bit and you just work a bit harder and so on, and then it all falls into place in a very natural way. Nothing is forced.
I believe it's simply like the choices that you make. It's always say that one good choice always leads to the another one.
Yes, the domino effect. I agree with you. Yes.
I got to know an amazing fact about you that in 2018, when you won the medal for India in the Asian Games, you ended India's 36 years of drought of not winning a medal in equestrian sport. And you got an Arjuna Award for that too in the following year. So, what was the feeling of achievement we like, and another feeling of breaking such a long lost record? What was running in your mind way back then?
So I must say, I had very high expectations of myself going into those Asian Games. I didn't find out about this 36-year drought until I'd actually won the medal. So nobody had told me this. But I was aware that Team India, the team competition, we had won medals, I think, in 2006. And I knew the team had won a medal, but an individual medal I wasn't aware of at that point. But I'm happy I wasn't, at least when I was competing, I wasn't too focused on that because of the added pressure and so on. So, but of course, in the end, it's an amazing feeling. And the way I see it now is it's in the past now. It's good to go back to the past, but for a short time. And main thing is to live in the present and look forward to the future. So the only useful thing from the past is the experience. So that's the way I see it. The Asian Games are done and dusted now, and we look on to bigger and better things coming up.
Oh, yes, definitely. So, learn from our past and move ahead in life. So, Tokyo Olympics were scheduled to be last year, but unfortunately, COVID happened and shifted the Olympics to this year. So, from an athlete's perspective, postponement of such a grand event, was it a sigh of relief as more time up for prepping up, or it simply increased the level of performance pressure and expectations from everyone?
I must say, for equestrian athlete, on the whole, I would say it's a positive scenario. Let's say, because you get an added year to train, an added year to gain experience and develop your relationship with the horse, and further strengthen your bond and training. I feel for a lot of other athletes, especially athletes in disciplines like running or various other disciplines where they peak at a certain age, and they might be going into that peak age or just coming out of it. So it's quite difficult for the other athletes. Fortunately for equestrian athletes, that doesn't pose so much of a disturbance to have the games postponed by a year. And personally, for me, it came as a blessing in disguise. Of course, 2020 hit, COVID situation, took everyone, pulled the carpet under everyone's feet. Yeah, it left a big mess. Competition stopped. Life, as we know it, stopped. And for me, at that stage, things with my horses weren't right. I must say I had a very difficult start 2020, barring the whole COVID situation. My horses, some suffered small injuries. Things were just not going in my way. And then to have the Olympics postponed was, to me, I was just thanking God, because I needed that. The horses needed the time, and so did I, to regroup, get them fit, get them healthy again. We got that lucky break, and we're stronger now, we're better now, and we're looking forward to the games this year.
I agree, it was a blessing in disguise. So 2020 was definitely an inevitable year for a lot of people. If you look at from the perspective, so a lot of established businesses flunked. But on the other side, many of the new ideas, imaginations, creativity, perspective, and a lot of things happen in the same year itself. Especially the impact and importance of connecting and upgrading ourselves towards a digital lifestyle. So people are now well connected, meetings are happening virtually, studies are happening virtually. The Indian side of work from home saw some great changes. It definitely laid an impact on lives and livelihood for a lot of people, but on a broader perspective, it could have been the much needed change that we were looking for.
Yes, I agree with you. And sometimes it's quite difficult to see the positive side of such a negative situation. But if you look deep enough and you just pay a little bit attention, you can definitely find the plus points or the plus side to this horrible thing like COVID and so on. So,
Right. So now let's talk about your personal life, especially the time when you are not at all practicing.
it's very different to how my life was back in India, because horses, it's 24/7, round the clock work. Unlike any other sport where you can just put your playing kit in the garage or leave it in the back of your car. Horses, after training, after exercising, we have to look after them. It's like, for example, it's like taking care of a little child. It's a full day job. So a lot of my time free time is still spent with the horses, and in the nicest way possible. You know, we look after them, we take care of them, and if I'm not, I must say I am totally involved in this sport. So if I'm not riding, I'm watching videos, seeing how other people are doing things, you know, reading about the sport, about the veterinary aspect of this sport, how best to manage horses, and so on. So I don't know anything else anymore. I only know horses, I can safely say.
Right. So does this affection with animals, especially a horse in your case, does it bring a sort of joy, happiness, calmness in your life when you are being surrounded by them on a long term, especially?
Yes, I think thinking about it now, I get a lot of satisfaction from working with this animal and being around them, and would be very strange for me if I went or if I had a day where I didn't see a horse or I didn't interact with a horse, because it's just so natural and consistent or constant in my life that now if I had a day without seeing horses or being around them, I would feel very strange.
Wow. So what's the most important thing you keep in your mind while you are prepping up or you are training with your horses?
So obviously we have to look at training them like any athlete would look at training themselves. Of course, we have different aspects in our sport that we have to work on. Each horse has its own strengths and weaknesses, so you work on those in different ways. Of course, you know, training methods vary for each horse individually and so on. So there is a lot that we look into training horses and preparing them for certain events. We also have to look at the conditions of the competitions that we're going to compete in. Terrain is one aspect of it. So for example, in our cross-country course, you could have a very flat terrain, which means the preparation for it would be slightly different if you had terrain which was very hilly. When you have hilly terrain, the horses have to be a lot fitter to take the rigors of terrain that is up and down and so on. So there's a lot. I mean, it's difficult to put everything in one pot. I really need a lot of time to explain all these various aspects.
Yeah, definitely. So you said in an interview that, while working with horses, flatwork and schooling are quite important. So can you simplify that for the audience, what exactly these are?
Yes, so the flat work and the schooling of horses is the basic groundwork that a rider and a horse have to put in to have all their basic trainings in place. So, example, your aids, your correct seat position, the balance of the horse, the way the horse is working, and so on. If you have a good foundation like anything, it's only on top of that can you grow further. And if there are some mistakes in this foundation, it'll get showed up in the later stages. So, and the flat work, I would say, is also very important for me at least, to build this relationship and this partnership with the horse, because it's at this level or the horse tuned into or learns to get tuned into to your riding, to what your body is saying, to your aids and your seat position and so on. And if there is any fault or default in this level, then as you get to the higher levels, then it starts to show up a little bit if there was a weakness in your foundation. To me, it's very, very important. And flat work and schooling, what it means to us is train the horses. We teach them different movements. So these movements not only make them, it's like training yoga or something like this, where you train your body to be more flexible, to get stronger, and we train their body to adapt to what will come later on in competition. So you really prepare them for the rigors of competition, and in doing this, you develop a strong bond. You know your horse's weaknesses, you know his strengths, you work on his strengths as weaknesses, and so on. And this ultimately, for me, creates the relationship between horse and rider.
Okay, now I get it. So you clarified a lot of my concepts and the ambiguity that I had relating to these terminologies. So you explained it beautifully over here. So as you stated earlier that in this sports, your horse is your second half. So it's the training, diet, selection specifically is of the utmost importance, right? So when it's about the horses, let's say selection of horses, to be very specific over here, for people or amateurs who are just starting out in this sports, so what sort of advice you want to give to them as per your experience so far?
The way I look at it, you should have as a rider, as any athlete, you set yourself goals. In respect to your equestrian goals, your horse is also very important. So, for example, if I was a rider just starting out, my goal or my idea of getting a horse would be a schoolmaster for me. So, a horse that would be able to take me to the next level. Let's say, for example, if I was a rider starting out, I wouldn't want to go and get a horse who's also just starting out in his career. I would like to get a horse that's already been trained, already established in his way of going, and his schoolmaster, like a teacher, like a professional teacher. So the horse teaches me a lot of good things, and if I make some mistakes, the horse then can compensate for those mistakes. Whereas if I was just starting out and I went and bought a new young horse that I'd have to train the horse as well as train myself, then when you make a mistake, the horse obviously is too young, too green, too much of a novice to compensate or to forgive you for those mistakes. So starting out, I would always get a horse that's well trained, established in his discipline. That way, you can learn a lot of good things from the horse, and if you make some mistakes, the horse will always forgive you and help you and compensate for those mistakes. And then once you've developed as a rider yourself, you've developed a good foundation, and you are ready to go on and tackle bigger competitions, bigger or higher levels, then you can go on and choose a horse that you can start to train and develop in the way you'd like it to be. You then have the experience of having the knowledge and the experience of riding these the experienced horse, which you can shed on your confidence and your training to the young horse and prepare a young horse. So choosing a horse solely depends on what goals you have in mind. It's very let's say dependent on that. So, and each horse, it's like you have to look at it in a way that this horse A will get you to a certain point, and from that point you need a different horse to take you to another level, and then from there and there. It's very rare that you see that one. It has happened in the past that one horse has taken you from, let's say, ground zero to the 15th floor. That is possible, but you have to be very, very lucky to find an animal like that.
Okay, so I'm very much clear on this point that you have just mentioned, and I'm sure that it might have answered the queries of a lot of people. While being on Instagram, when I asked them, I was having you as my guest, so what are the queries or questions that you want to ask? So the majority of queries and the majority of questions that I got, what about the selection of horses? So I guess this much have provided a deep clarity.
I hope it has, but it's very, very important, at least for me, because a certain horse will take you so far, and then you need, perhaps when you go up levels, you need a better horse, and so on and so on. So that's the way I see it. And I think if there is a mismatch, either which way, if you are a very good rider and you get a horse that may not be so talented, it's very difficult to perform. And if you're an amateur rider who gets a very talented horse but who's probably not so established in his training, it's again then very difficult to perform. So it really is goal dependent on what your goals are as a rider. And I think it's very important to then look out for a horse to suit those goals. And then, of course, you move on from that horse. As you get better in your training, you move on. It's like, F1, then you have F3 where they're racing slightly less powerful cars, and then they upgrade to F1, and then you get the real deal. Whereas if you gave an F3 driver an F1 car, God knows what will happen.
So Fouaad, now I'm taking this course of conversation towards the preparation part of yours. And to begin with, let's talk about the mental fitness first. Because personally, I lay great importance on the mental fitness and mental muscle part. And that's also one of the core ideas behind starting this podcast. So what's your take on mental fitness? How much importance do you lay, especially in your case, in your sports, that is much more dependent on the other person, that is horse in your case, right?
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. The mental side of sport or any aspect in life is very, very important. I would say it's 90% mental and 10% physical, because a strong mind equals a strong body, and and it goes from there. What the things that I do, I meditate a lot, and I must say I don't do it in the conventional way. I do it. I can do it sitting in a car. I can do it sitting in a plane or sitting anywhere. That I just try and focus on nothing. It's hard to say, but try and just avoid thinking and one of the easiest ways of doing that is by just trying to focus on your breathing in, breathing out, and that just takes your mind from all the other thoughts, sounds, noises, whatever's going around outside. Once you do that for a few minutes and then you focus on what you actually need to do, your thinking is very clear. And then I suppose for everyone it's slightly different. Everybody works differently and so on, and I think it's very important to know how you work or how you think or how your clock runs. I think that's very important, and that it's important to take time to figure that out, to figure out what makes you tick, what distracts you, what enhances your concentration. Once you figure out all these little things, and it's by trial and error you get to learn all these various aspects of your mind. And once you figure out the system, you can fine tune it here and there. And for example, for me, before competitions and so on, I try not to eat sweet things like sugar and so on. I feel sugar has a negative effect on concentration and the mental side of it, because it increases inflation in the brain, and it's very hard to then focus on one thing. You get very distracted easily. At least I feel that when I eat sweets and chocolates, which I really love, but that is what I feel. So I try and avoid eating sugar. I do this meditation thing, before I sit on my horse to go and compete, or I visualize a lot of how I want to ride, what I want to do. I'm taking notes. I think that's also a very important thing, to take notes. If you think of something interesting or you think of something that could work, always take a note of it, because I feel it stays with you for longer. You can always go back and read it, and it'll take you back to that place or that situation. So there are a lot of these small things that I do to prepare myself for competition. And if I am going in for a dressage test, let's say, I always write down movement to movement, what I want to do, how I want to turn, where, all these sort of things. And then sometimes, 9 times out of 10, or let's say most of the time, you you do exactly what you've written down or what you've thought, which is amazing. And it happens, you almost say you go in, I wouldn't say a trance, but you get into this flow state. And once you hit this flow state, it's almost like you can have a out of body experience. So you're doing it, and then you can step out and saying, wow, is this actually, you can't believe sometimes how smoothly it's going. But when athletes are in a state of flow in whatever sport they are, and it's amazing to watch, because they are so in tune to what they're doing, and mistakes, they never look like they're going to make a mistake. They almost look like machines. So it's important to figure out what helps you get there. That's why I say the mental side of it is very, very important.
So the meditation part that you just mentioned, it's really important. You need to, or I should say you have to spend some time with yourself in solitude, or just have your entire focus shifted to just one thing, like breathing you just mentioned. And also the concept of noting is down is my personal favorite, because whenever I come up with any idea or a thought, or you see anything that fetches my attention quickly, I simply note it down immediately. So in this manner, the intangible idea that is in my mind now, or the imagination that I'm stuck, I give it a tangible perspective by writing it down on a piece of paper, or simply noting it down in my smartphone.
I completely agree with you on that, yes.
And moreover, you can visit it later on, you can actually work on it, and you can make that idea or imagination a reality.
Absolutely, yes. You also, when you write it down, when you read it, you go through it, you create this visual aspect in your mind, which is very, very important. And I think when you visualize things, or you're able to visualize things, you've already You've done it in the virtual world, you just have to do it in reality, and it's not that different. We might think it is because it's a physical thing, but if you think about it this way, that if you virtually think about kicking a ball into the goal, let's say all your neurological pathways go right to this point with, let's say they go physically to complete kicking a ball into the goal, you have to start from point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you think about it, you go to 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've almost done the whole spectrum of that. You've almost completed all those tasks except the physical aspect of kicking the ball into the goal, which is number 5. So if you virtually or you visually think of something enough, of doing it exactly how you want to do it, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you think about it again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you perfect pretty much every single aspect of that spectrum. And then the last is the physical aspect, which is then that just happens. So visualization, I think, is also very, very important, especially in sport.
So, as they say, you can't be what you can't see. So, Fouad, Olympics are roughly 3 months away, and it's going to be your first appearance in Olympics as well. And we are really, we are really wishing and we really are hopeful for your success over there, that you achieve the best out of it. So, let's talk about the physical fitness one, right? And that is of much more major importance for any athlete. Can you give us an idea or maybe a sneak peek into your fitness strategy or something specific that you feel after making it a part of your fitness regimen? It brought some amazing changes in you. So what's your fitness strategy over here?
Obviously, riding is a very physical sport. So, I'm riding around 5 to 6 hours a day minimum. But apart from riding, I work predominantly on core strength. That's very, very important for riders. Core strength, stability, and flexibility. For an equestrian athlete, that is very, very important. Our body has to be supple, at the same time it has to be strong, and at the same time it has to be stable. See, if you think about it this way, if I gave you a bag with, let's say, a lot of weight in it, and I ask you to run, and if that bag was moving around left, right, your job to run itself would be very difficult. But if I gave you a bag with weight in it, very stable on your back, for you to run, it would be much easier. So if you look at it that way, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the running more easy for my horse by being as stable, as still as possible. And in order for riders to achieve that, they have to have a lot of core strength, because your core strength gives you stability. And at the same time, you also need flexibility to be able to move with the horse and stay. The horse should be an extension of your body, and in order for you to be able to do that, you have to be very supple and very flexible in the saddle to move with the horse, and not to hinder the horse in his movement, or not to hinder his jump or his gallop and so on. And I try to avoid running. I like running, but I think for an equestrian athlete, it makes you, I would say, slightly stiff. I'm not saying it's a complete no-go, but it develops the muscles you don't need for riding, let's say. So a lot of exercises I do on the mat, whether it's sit-ups, and then a lot of balance exercises I do on an exercise ball. I go once a week to see a physiotherapist who also trains me. So we have different sessions where we work on balance, we work on coordination. And then I come home and I train these exercises. So I get a plan for the week, and then I come home and I train these exercises in the week. And I must say my riding has improved a lot after looking into this particular aspect of the sport.
Perfect. So now my final set of questions to you, Fouaad. Starting with, let's talk about the future of this sport in India. Because in other part of the world, especially European countries, this sport is quite famous and a lot of developments keep on happening in it. While if we talk about India specifically, we are still at a stage, I feel, which require a lot of attention, a lot of development, and a lot of future leads to, make this a prominent choice for young athletes to choose from. So, what will be your suggestions of feedbacks or good practices that you want to share or highlight in front of us so that people can choose from this sport while they're deciding on, to become an athlete or to represent India in Olympics and for the future?
I think everybody has to start somewhere. And of course, we're, let's say, a few years behind. But I think India has a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent for this sport. So that's the first thing. We're definitely growing in the right direction. Because we're dealing with another animal, and there's a lot that goes into maintaining and managing this animal in itself, I don't think it's something you can fast track, right? I think it has to happen in a natural way, and it is going in that direction. You see a lot more riders riding, much riders and young people taking it up at a young age, which I think that's what we need, because this is something. I'm not saying it's not possible to learn when you're older, but it is quite difficult to pick up when you're older. So the fact that a lot of young people are already getting into it at an early age, that's a huge bonus, because it is a different feeling, or it is a bit scary, of course, to interact with horses first on your first impression. And the first time you interact with a horse, it is a big animal and it has a mind of its own, and so on. So it can be a bit nerve-wracking at times, but once you do it at a young age, you get used to it, you get comfortable around them, and then you don't even think about it. So the super thing is everyone's taking it up early. That's great. And you have more and more riding clubs and centers opening up, more shows going on. For me, I always think the best way to improve is competition. Everybody can be an Olympic champion at home, but it's a totally different thing when you're in a ring in competition doing the real thing. The second we have, as we are seeing now, we're getting more and more competitions in India, which is a huge bonus for the riders there. And also the quality of riders, and especially the quality of horses, are getting better in India. And that's exactly what we need. Our sport is very, very much dependent on the horse. I always say you're only as good as your horses. And at the moment in India, you have a very high quality of horse either being brought in from European countries or other parts of the world, or even being bred and grown in India. So that's a huge step forward. There are a lot of aspects that I would like to see improve, like the farriery side of it. So farriery is as you're aware, horses wear steel shoes. We're still a bit behind on this part in India, but it's improving. There are a lot of programs to teach the farriers that we have in India how to best do it, and how to best shoe horses of different types and ages. It's a sport that depends on so many variables or so many different aspects, and I think one by one we're getting all these aspects into place. And once everything is in place, then I think the sky is the limit, because horses have been a part of Indian culture for years, for centuries. Horse is indigenous to India. We have the Marwari, the Kathiawari. These are breeds of horses that have they're part of India. So this is not an animal that's new to us. This is an animal that our ancestors have dealt with years and years and years ago. It's in every Indian's blood.
Yes, you pointed out some really nice and I would say noting improvements and suggestions for us. So thank you on that part. Uh, Now, for any young child out there who dream of becoming an equestrian and represent his or her country at international feats, so can you guide them, or specifically, for parents who will be listening to you right now, can you guide them through a road or maybe a route map right from an early stage while they are choosing a career in this sport? Right from an early stage. So, what will be your guide map or your road map or your suggestion for them?
One thing I think we all cannot hide from is the fact that, let's say, I want to say it straight away in the beginning, it is an expensive sport, but it is expensive all over the world. It's not just in India. That's one thing that we cannot avoid, because just looking after horses is very, very, they need a lot of care, they need a lot of help, and they're very big, so they eat a lot as well. That is one thing I'd just like to put out there. But if you're very, very interested in the sport and you're very comfortable and around horses and so on, I think the first step would obviously to join a riding school in your city or around your area where you train a bit, work on the basics, get the basic foundation in place and so on. And then once you've got all of those basics in place, and you can slowly start to compete in the regional competitions. Once you do that, then you can go into the national levels. From there, if you're very, very talented and you're very hardworking and so on, I think from there, go international from there should be fairly straightforward, I would say. But of course, it's a very, I would say it's difficult from any other sport because you're working with another animal. I can say honestly that there are more hard days than the good days. But the fact that you love working with horses and love being around them make the good days 10 times better than the hard days. So even if you have one good day, it counts for 10 hard days. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. As with anything, if you work hard, you really like what you do, then there's no boundaries to what you can achieve and where you can get to.
Now, Fouaad, my last question to you. So, out of all the experiences that you have had in your life till date, be it life in general, or be it into being an athlete, being in sports, be it success, failure, anything, what will be your top life advices or takeaways that you want to share, that the real Fouaad Mirza sitting right in front of me want to share with young people out of there who are probably in their 20s or 30s, that they need some advices or life learnings from you? So what will be your top 3 life learnings or life advices that you have to offer to them?
It's a very good question. I must say, I would say one thing I wish I had a bit more of was in the past was I wish I had a bit more self-confidence. That takes you a long way. If you really believe in yourself and you carry yourself in a way that people read you in a better way, your point of view comes across in a better way. So I think self-confidence is something that have taken me some time to learn, and I think I wish I had a bit more of that in college and university and growing up. And the other thing is, one thing I've always had is a positive mindset. I always thought whatever I did, I could do it. I didn't, anything I went into, even if I couldn't do it, I always thought I could do it. And I think that's important. The experiences you gain from different situations it's amazing, and to put yourself in uncomfortable situations is the best thing you can do to yourself. I always feel if you get into an uncomfortable situation, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would always almost look at it as a positive thing. The more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you grow. If I had known this 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have me a lot more. But I've it's never too late, and I've understood that now, and good way forward.
So the first one is this self-confidence that you said. So have a belief in yourself, trust yourself, and that you can do it. The second one is the affirmations. No matter how against a situation might be affirm, stay positive, and look for the opportunity instead of distress and failures in it.
Absolutely.
And third one, I want you to repeat it again for us, man. Please.
To get out of your comfort zone and to be at home or be competent in uncomfortable situations, because it's very easy for you to do things when you're comfortable and you're in your comfort zone. But I think if you go and seek things that make you uncomfortable, that's when you grow. Or be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Oh, that's amazing one. Be uncomfortable with the comfortable. Wow. So if people want to reach out to you, what is the best possible way to get in touch with you?
So until early this year, I had no social media platforms. I have an Instagram account now. So you can follow me on Instagram at the rate of Fouaad Mirza. It's my official page where you can follow a bit of what I'm doing and about my daily life. And there's a lot of fun videos of me training, working with the horses and going to various shows and competing and so on. So yeah, follow me a bit on that. And actually, that's the only social media platform I have, to be honest. But
So Fouaad, thank you so much for being a part of this show. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation. It was a great time that we had over the past 30-40 minutes. We involved in some of the great conversations, some good insights from you about this sport,
welcome.
about life in general, all the motivations kind of stuff that you put up. Thank you so much. And we just wish you all the best from full of our heart, that we are damn sure that you're going to make and you're going to earn some great stuff out of there in Olympics that are going to hell in just 3 months. So all the very best.
Thank you very, very much, Mayank, and it was an honor to be on your podcast. I'm sure we will be in touch.
So that's what I've got for today's episode. If you love this episode, please take a screenshot of this and tag me at MAYANKSEHRA and Fouaad at FOUAADMIRZA on Instagram. We really appreciate you for this. So now step out, follow your instinct, and seek the purpose you are destined to. I'll see you in the next episode with another purpose seeker. Cheers.